Hi Taurus, welcome to your end of November 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here, and I just wanted to give you some astrological highlights for the end of November because there's some things coming up that are pretty significant. First of all, I'm recording this the day, well, actually a couple of days before Mars goes direct, and so I'm recording. No, it's like one day, yeah, because it's on the 13th of November, and I'm recording this on the 12th. Mars has been retrograde for a couple of months now, and I don't know if you have noticed any changes in your life. This has been in the 12th house for Taurians, in its own sign of Aries. But it's a very frustrating placement because you may feel like you want to do something. And I'm talking about Mars being retrograde. It always creates this frustration. But in the 12th house, which is a contemplative area, it can feel especially, I don't know, even anxiety producing, I would think. I have a Taurus rising, so I'm right there with you if you have experienced this. And so I'm looking forward to Mars going direct and gaining steam. I was looking to see when Mars is going to go into Taurus, because that can be very energizing when Mars is in your first house. And I think it's not until February because of the way that Mars transits. It takes about, I would say, 6 weeks to go through one sign. And now that it's direct, it's going to take, well, it's going to go into Taurus, but I'm talking about my degree. I'm a later degree Taurus. So but it's going to be in 2021 when it goes into Taurus. So we're going to still have it in that 12th house for a while. And then the other things are happening on the 16th, or actually 14th or 15th, depending on where you live in the world. There is a new moon in Scorpio, and that is at 23 degrees of Scorpio. So that's going to be in the 7th house of committed partnership. If you have been having some kind of a relationship issue, you may be able to take your committed partnership to the next level and form some kind of an agreement or understanding that creates a new chapter for your life. And this is also the house of lawsuits, so there might be some kind of development there. And on the last day of the month, there is a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini, and this can be very much a part of your finances. For a lot of you, this may actually be in the first house of the Self, if you're born between 9 and, but I don't like to say that. I'm not going to even say that anymore, because I have found that that doesn't follow the rule exactly either. So I'm just going to say that Gemini is your second house, and that is the house of finances, the money that you earn, and I would say the money that you attract to yourself particularly. So any kind of money, even if it's a gift, if it's directed to you specifically, I would say that's the second house. So when I think of a lunar eclipse, I think of kind of a flood coming in that you cannot stop, and this may be pent up resources that didn't have anywhere to go. And that's how I choose to look at it. It can certainly shake up your financial situation, but if you've been feeling that your finances are stagnant, then that might be a very good thing. And so I'm certainly hoping that you experience that. This is the house that Taurus rules, by the way, the second house. So let's look let's look astrologically. Let's look at the tarot to see what the tarot says. Okay, so the heart of the matter is the King of Swords, which is a card of, this is, I was telling you about some kind of a legal matter. This could be a judge who's making that decision. But it certainly could be something that is on your end where you have to be dispassionate. You can't have emotions when you make a decision. So unlike the Queen of Swords, which you may feel kind of pulled in two directions between your emotions and your head, this is like completely cutting out the emotions. And that's what judges have to do. They can't be swayed by emotion. Another thing, too, is that this could be somebody that you're dealing with, and in particular, the air signs. So Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini. It's really funny because last night I was watching this little interview or little piece on Valerie Bertinelli, who's a Taurus. And when I was a teenager, she was she was like a big star. And she still is. I mean, she's still a celebrity. But it was funny because back then, when she married Eddie Van Halen, who is an Aquarius, I didn't know about astrology then, where I knew about relationships. But as soon as they got together, there were always talks about incompatibility. And so when I was watching that thing last night on YouTube, I was thinking, well, of course, he's an Aquarius, she's a Taurus. And there's going to be a lot of differences between those two signs. And I thought I should do, I don't know if I've done a video on Taurus and Aquarius. So I'm thinking about that now. But that could be an Aquarius that you're dealing with. And you may feel like this person is very, tied into themselves or caught up into themselves, and they're locked into themselves, maybe is a better way of putting it, and you can't reach them. Like there's this sense of an impenetrable wall or something, because these are people who may not be very emotional. Now, Taurus doesn't tend to be emotional either. Earth is not emotional. Air and earth are both, they have that in common. However, you're not just your sun sign. Maybe your moon sign is in Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio, or a fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sag, and you are much more emotive. And you feel like this person is neglecting you emotionally. Now, they could be, but they might just have a different style of how they go through life. And so that's where incompatibility comes in. It doesn't mean that one person is wrong, like one person is doing something wrong. They just may do things in a different way, express themselves in a different way. In the past position, we have the Page of Swords. This is a card of I don't know if you can tell, but I call it the spy card, because this person's kind of suspicious about somebody, and they're kind of like trying to gain information about what they're up to. And I would say, they suspect something, in other words. That's why they're suspicious. But sometimes you can suspect something and it's not true. You're just like, your suspicions are roused. But if it is something going on, it's because this person maybe has turned cold to you. And if you are dealing specifically with an Aquarius person, because this is something that happens with Aquarius. Aquarius is a fixed sign like Taurus. And what that means is it forms a square to your sun or your rising sign. But I'm hoping that most people are sun sign in Taurus watching this. Just because it's not connected to astrology, the tarot reading itself. The astrology is connected to sun and rising sign, but not the actual tarot reading. But there's an attraction there, but there's an irritation at the same time. And so these types of people, one of the things that they can do, and this is also true, especially of the moon in Aquarius, is they can kind of turn cold on you just seemingly out of the blue. And that can be very upsetting to somebody who has a background in being rejected or abandoned by maybe a parent in the past or something like that. So it can be unnerving, and you have to keep your bearings and realize that this could be within themselves. If there's nothing that you have done to them specifically that would cause this, then something's going on within themselves. You may suspect that they are seeing somebody else, and that might be what's going on. If this is a workplace situation, the same thing can apply, that your boss was always very effusive, giving you praise, and all of a sudden they're kind of cold, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Are they about to, drop the, I don't know what the phrase is, the axe, bomb, whatever, what's going on here? And the higher message is the Hermit, and this is a card of seeking wisdom from within. And this is never bad advice. I mean, this is about, I think it's like about finding your center through your inner self. Because a lot of times we're trying to get calmed down by finding out that the other person isn't cheating, finding out that we're not going to get fired or laid off, whatever you want to call it. And we're looking for comfort in the outer world, and we're supposed to seek it from within. And we can stabilize ourselves. We don't need a condition, like a certain thing happening to make us feel secure. We don't need somebody to like us or love us to feel secure. We have to cultivate that within ourselves. And then we're unshakable. But the problem is that we're taught to seek it externally. And so this is what that can mean. And if this is a relationship issue, it can also mean to retreat, to go within. Instead of like with the Page of Swords, you may be asking that person a bunch of questions and interrogating them. If you've noticed changes in their behavior, to try to catch them in a lie or get them to admit that they are cheating. And that's a game. That other person, sometimes if that person is a narcissist, and when I see kings and queens, I think that that person could also be a narcissistic personality, and they thrive on your chaos. Okay, so you have to be as unshakable as possible in order to thwart them getting that satisfaction. So they may be doing these things to get a reaction out of you, to make you feel like you are dependent on their approval. And that includes even cheating. Imagine if somebody cheated and you didn't react to it. And it's not to say that you internally, that you don't feel sadness or anything else, but you didn't give them that satisfaction. These types of people would wither away because they don't have that payoff coming. And in the meantime, you could be saying, I'm going to get out of this relationship, because obviously that's not what you would want. You don't want, unless you want an open relationship, and some people do. So what crosses you is the Page of Pentacles. This can be like some kind of communication that is delayed. Perhaps you have already been sending out resumes to different places and haven't heard back. It's possible that because of, the Mercury retrograde situation happening, which for some of you may have been in your 6th house, at least a part of it would have been, that it still is getting itself back in working order. And it's going to take time. So you may be like, when can I get out of this situation? I can't take it. This boss is driving me crazy. Or in terms of like a relationship, it's possible that you have met somebody who is an earth sign like you, but you haven't been able to cultivate that relationship. And so you're still involved with a another person who you realize is not really compatible with you, but you kind of haven't broken that off yet. Page of Pentacles can indicate the early stages of something. And with Pentacles, it's with somebody who is probably more of an earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, like you. And if that King of Swords is somebody that is very, has been very central to your life, it may take time for you to kind of distance yourself from such a person. So it's not something that would have necessarily happened right away. What's coming in is represented by the Seven of Cups, and this is a card of having a lot of choices, but not necessarily knowing where to go, what to do. Also, a lot of options, so that's the good part of it. The other side of it is wishful thinking, wanting something that may not be really for you. So an example is if you're in a job where you're doing things and you think you're doing a great job and you're not getting that kind of feedback, positive feedback. It may not be, for some people, it may not be that big of a deal because it's not about that person. But for some, it can be very important and a motivational thing to get that. So you have to figure out what kind of person you are. And yes, I do think to some degree there might be insecurity attached to it for some people, that they need to have that external validation. But, I think it makes sense that if you're working for somebody else, that, you want to know that they are happy with your work. And I don't think that's outrageous to expect that. And if you're not getting that, and if the person is even, rather a little bit too critical, like a perfectionist, then that can be really frustrating to be working for such a person, because you can feel as though nothing you do is good enough. And you have to be the one to decide whether or not it's compatible with your personality type, because you may be unrealistic, and that can be what the Seven of Cups is. It's like that you have an unrealistic desire that cannot be met in this particular situation. Even in relationships, you may want your partner to be more, to praise you more, to say you look nice, or to give you compliments, and they may be very closed off to themselves, but they might be a good person and they might be good to you. And if you do love this person, you have to accept them as they are. And this is one of the hardest things for people to do. But they can throw away good relationships because they misunderstand or misperceive what that person is actually doing in their behavior. Some people have a hard time saying I love you. This may be what is going on in your relationship, but everything else proves to you that they do care. And it's, the Page of Swords isn't necessarily true. You might be suspicious for no good reason. No one can say, but I definitely am not encouraging people to be in denial. So if you do see that somebody has changed and all of a sudden they're pulling back emotionally and they're acting kind of cold to you, and maybe there's been other behavioral changes, then that has to be definitely looked at. You can't just bury your head in the sand. So the Seven of Cups can mean different things for different situations. Oh, I just noticed that. See, right here, I can't touch it. Can I touch it? That glowing orb, but I know that's probably just a reflection on something. The outcome is the Six of Wands. This is a great card for career recognition, being having your talents appreciated. So I don't know how that would connect to the King of Swords, unless perhaps that person gives you that sense of what you're looking for, and that makes you feel a sense of relief, and maybe you can let go of that suspicious tendency. This is a card of victory, of having some kind of success. The reason I'm saying career is because it's connected to wands, which are the suit of career itself. Now, it's interesting because I have that Page of Pentacles. The Pentacles are connected to work, one of the things, and money, but work. And what's the difference between work and career? Well, the career is something that you are personally invested in. You know, you can get a job anywhere, and you may not be invested in that job. It's just something you're doing to make money, to stay afloat. But the career is something that, to me, is your own personal ambition. And that's another thing with wands, is ambition. And realizing your ambition could be the Six of Wands. But also having other people. And if this is in the personal arena, it might be that that there is somebody, if the Seven of Cups is somebody else that you're dealing with, perhaps a Pisces, definitely a water sign, this person gives you that sense of, I don't want to say validation, but that sense of seeing you, and appreciation is a good way of putting it. Okay, that's what I have for you, Taurus. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.